Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on leading lean transformation in your organization. And lean is the Toyota production method way of reducing waste. And of course, before reducing waste, we have to identify the waste. And there are 8 classic wastes. I'm not going to mention them all, but some of them are excess transportation, overproduction, not engaging people. So we're going to concentrate on, talent optimization and engaging people in the lean process, because that's very important. That's going to help you succeed in the workplace. So joining us for today's webinar is Ruben Gonzalez, 4-time Olympian in the luge. He's a professional speaker. He's presented to thousands of people and presented especially to the top 100 of the top Fortune 500 companies. So welcome, Ruben.
Hey, Carlos, great to be here.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your journey in the leadership arena and what you consider, what leadership traits are, or what leading change, leadership during change, how is that important?
Sure. My first job was Chick-fil-A. I worked in Chick-fil-A number 85 back in the late 70s when I was in high school. Nobody knew what a Chick-fil-A was. They'd walk up to the counter and say, "I'd like one of those Chick-fil-A sandwiches," and we had to educate them. We had a lousy location in a tiny mall with no traffic, but we were always in the top 10% in sales in the company. And the reason was our manager, Steve Mason, was an incredible leader. He made it fun. He was always focusing on, he would tell us things like, "You're not working for Chick-fil-A and you're not working for me. You're working for yourself, okay? Because you're learning things that you're going to use the rest of your life. So take this as an opportunity." And he would do all these contests to get us to sell more, but it was fun. There was hardly any turnover for 3 years. It was incredible. We all still, that core group of Chick-fil-A employees and Steve, we still keep in touch 40 years later.
Oh, okay, wow.
That's unheard of in fast food. Chick-fil-A figured out Steve was too good to be running a store. They brought him to Atlanta and they made him VP of training for the whole company. And they brought in another manager, and he was lousy. Okay, and within 6 months, everybody quit. And so I realized that leadership comes from the top. The leader can create a culture, right?
Yes.
That leads to success. And it was a little bit like the Olympic Training Center, right? Because the Olympic Training Center is it's an environment conducive to success. They do a lot of things to make sure that, that everything we do is going to give us the best chance to get where we want to get.
Exactly.
So that's a little leadership story. When I started luging at age 21, a 21-year-old, right? I thought I could do everything by myself, right? And so I was a fathead. But when I got to Lake Placid and I started getting hurt on that sled, I realized, oh my gosh, I need help. I better learn some leadership skills, create a team, and work through the team to help me reach my goal. Because I need a support team, right? Doctors and chiropractors and financial help and moral help, right? Ruben, don't quit. You can do it. I believe in you. And I did, right? And so leadership, I turned a single sport into a team sport because I couldn't have done it by myself.
And it is true that leadership starts from the top. As they say, as the eagle flies, so does the flock, right? But it sounds to me like, your leader had a great attitude, and part of a great attitude, if we take a look at the slide presentation, we start off with taking a look at a different mindset. And really, true leaders do have a different mindset than those that don't lead so well. So this is Carol Dweck's model. And so if we take a look on the left, we see a fixed mindset. And this is
I'm seeing your book. Sorry, Carlos. I'm seeing all your books right now.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Let's go to.
And that book is great, by the way.
Thanks.
It's an encyclopedia. Okay. It's like 3 books at once, but the name is perfect because it it's a reference book. I think it's a reference book. It needs to stay on your desk. And whenever you have a question on leadership or teamwork, just refer to that chapter and, and it's like having Carlos next to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's okay. So let's take a look at the first slide here. As Ruben says, how the top leads, how the eagle flies, so does the flock. And so having the right mindset in order to lead change in our organizations is that leadership mojo, so to speak, that helps us get to the next level of excellence and profitability. So this is from Carol Dweck. And on the left, we see that we have a mindset of a leader that maybe wants to look smart. They want to sound smart. They have a lot of experience, but they tell you that they have a lot of experience. And they brag about all they know, and maybe, they got all the good ideas. Have you worked for anybody like that, Ruben?
Not for long.
Not for long. And and that's true. Those type of leaders have high employee turnover. They have more workers' comp cases. And again, it costs about $53,000 on average to replace an employee. And so we want to make sure that we keep employees, we fully engage them, and we help them grow. And that's part of cultural transformation. With regards to challenges, this person, may not avoid challenges. Maybe we'll lead them ahead on. But rather than seeing challenges as a learning opportunity and embracing them, and also part of change and challenges is making mistakes. Some of these folks do not allow for mistakes. They want perfectionists every time. And that just can't happen because, again, as humans, we're fallible. So we're going to make mistakes. And in fact, companies spend millions and millions of dollars, especially the automotive field, making sure that we don't make mistakes. So what do we see now? We see cars that can brake in an emergency. Going forward, we see them giving us alarms. So as we're backing up, we don't run into something. I rented a car recently where I put it in reverse in this, and I was looking over my shoulder because there was a big drift of snow behind me. And I unbuckled my seatbelt so I could turn around. And guess what? That car would not let me back up because I had taken my seatbelt off. You see, so again, car manufacturers are not allowing us to make silly mistakes, you see? And so again, part of a process is to embrace mistakes so that then we can come up with these countermeasures. Obstacles, maybe people give up easily, or with hiring people like Ruben to come into a company to try to change the culture, and Ruben gives a fantastic talk. And, then he hears, well, that was all well and good, but it really didn't change our people much. You can't expect just a magic wand, right? It takes time. And so patience, persisting in the face of setbacks. And nobody knows about persistence in the face of setbacks like Ruben and all the bruises and bumps and broken bones that you took. Tell us about that.
Well, it's funny. You mentioned mistakes. When we're training, if it's a training week, we will, if you have sharp steels, the steels on your sled, if they're sharp, you have good traction, but that's slow, right? And then, wow. so we will gradually, at the beginning of the season, we have sharp steels, but we're gradually rounding them off, right? Through the sandpaper and the shape we give it, and we're trading traction for speed. And we keep doing that until we start crashing and we back it off a bit, right?
Holy cow.
But if we didn't do that, we wouldn't know how far can we go. And we'll do that at different tracks. Maybe another track seems a little easier. Hey, maybe I can round my steels a little bit more. And so little things, that you're looking to make mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, you don't know how far you're playing it too safe, and you'll never be your best. You'll never find you'll never find your limits, right? Your upper limits.
Absolutely. So, you got to push the envelope.
Watson. Yeah, yep. One of the old, in the old days, Watson, IBM CEO, he's got a famous quote that he said, you want to double your success, double your failure rate, right?
Absolutely.
Make no mistakes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a law of
So,
averages.
perseverance. You mentioned. I when I was a kid, my dad got me to read biographies, and he said, if you'll study the lives of great people, you'll figure out what works, what doesn't work in life, because success leaves clues. And I started reading them, and what I kept seeing over and over was perseverance, right? These people, they're just successful people are a bunch of hardheads. They refuse to quit, right? And so I made a decision as a 12-year-old that, hey, I'm never quitting, right? If quitting is the end of, quitting is the end of your dream, right? Perseverance is, at least you still got a shot. You're still in the game.
Yep.
And so by high school, my nickname was Bulldog. And when I decided to do the luge at the age of 21, I wasn't a great athlete. I was always the last kid picked for PE. But I thought, hey, I got to find a sport with a lot of broken bones, maybe a lot of quitters, and I won't quit, right? My superpower is perseverance, right? So you have to figure out what your superpower is and run with it, right?
And figure where there's a fit, and that's very important.
Yeah.
The other part of that though is that entrepreneurs again are very hard-headed, and that's what makes them really good at succeeding. However, once they start forming organizations, that doggedness can come back and bite if they're not flexible. And part of the two mindsets is being flexible so that we're able to grow the organization to the next level of growth. So as we take a look at the organization, we take a look at exactly that, organizational maturity. So that includes the owner, but it also includes the people with regards to what is their mindset. Do they feel like they can succeed? Have we put them in the right match? So you're talking about you matched your personality with the sport. And so in an organization, we have to match the right talent, the right attributes, maybe dexterity, maybe patience, maybe engineering with the right job. You see, and we call that job match. We also take a look at the culture. What's the culture of the organization? Is it a culture where just one person has all the great ideas and I say, do it? Or is it a culture where the person says, hey, I hired the right talent. I hired you for your expertise. Ruben, do it. I'm going to give you the resources, right? And a culture of making mistakes, like you say, because again, if we're not skinning our knees, if we're not getting cuts, we're not having enough fun, you see? And so that's part of change.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
When I played soccer, it's funny when you're playing soccer. Some of the guys, they won't play hard because they don't want to get dirt on that beautiful white uniform, right? And so, coach, he'd have us roll around in the dirt a little bit before the game, so
right?
that we wouldn't, we'd be in already.
Right? Get over it. You're dirty now. Go. Right. And that's germane to change in the workplace. We're afraid of moving stuff because that's always been there. And, organizing because, it's predictable. And so, so what I do is I go in there and I start moving stuff right away, and they're like, what are you doing? You can't move that. I said, why not? I said, isn't it better closer to you? How about here? You're not walking as much. And they're like, oh, okay. And after a while, they realize, oh, this is better for me, and they start feeling more comfortable. However, when I do that, I say, okay, now let's think about how things are connected. All right. That's called systems thinking. And we don't just move something or we don't just change something without saying, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3, right? And now let's document that. Let's train everybody. Let's standardize so that everybody's doing it the same. And so now we get really robust outcome because we systematized it. Okay. And so one of the things to ask is your culture mature? And what that means is, are you growing? Are you getting people involved? Or is your culture new where, again, I don't want people to do that. I can't empower people because, I got to have control, you see? And you got to let go of control. The only way that you're a company is that somehow, somewhere down the line, you decided, I can't do it all myself. I can't be licking envelopes, right? Sending these out, stuffing the stuff in myself. I need people to do that. And so you did that. But you get to a point where you get scared, just like the luge, you get to a point where you get scared going so fast around those corners that unless you say, you know what, I got to press the envelope. I got to get off and fly off the side. If I don't fly off the side, then I'm okay, right? I'm going to gain the speed and make it to the finish line.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to take a risk. It's funny that you mentioned that. I've been a professional speaker for 18 years, and about a month and a half ago, I got to the point where I live in Colorado and I want to spend more time. I want some of my time back, right? So I can go hiking and have more fun.
Yeah, quality of life.
I started getting hiring salespeople, right? And it's not really hiring; they're partnering up with me, right? They're independent contractors, and I'm giving them guidance, but I'm telling them, look, these scripts that I'm giving you, these are very generic. You have to make them your own, okay?
Personalize them.
Unless you feel like you're yourself, it's going to come out the wrong way. It's not the prospect's going to get a weird feeling. And it's funny. I just had a call last week with a couple, and these are very high level employees in a big company, and they have a lot of sales experience. And they said that they might be interested in doing this a little bit part-time. And they said, we have some ideas of our own. Are you okay with us? I said, listen, as long as you get results, I don't care what you do, okay? I mean, I'm open. And if it works, you better let me know what you're doing, because I want to learn too, right?
Exactly.
Together, we get better. If I'm a hardhead and do it my way or the highway, I won't get nearly the results.
Not only that, but that is a best practice. So again, if you're able to now systematize that so that now other people can do it at least 80 or 90% as well as the gold standard, and I talk about that in my book. I talk about the continuum of growth, where again, we want at least 10% of the workforce to be at the gold level standard. And then we train the middle 80% of the workforce to do it as 80% as good as them. It's going to raise everybody's up. You see, so you got 90% of the workforce doing it at this level. Now, the remaining 10%, that's your apprentice level. And you're coming along and you're training them and you're onboarding. But even onboarding has to be a formal type of event. And so you have to figure out that it's not going to happen overnight. So we have to take these baby steps. And the journey of 1,000 miles begins with what?
Single step.
Single step.
That's right.
And so that's the same thing with, organizational development and lean transformation. And we can't get...
Hey, Carlos, can I ask you something? I've always wondered about this. And you're a master black belt Six Sigma, right? I mean, It sounds like we're at a dojo somewhere, getting ready. It's like Karate Kid or something.
Right.
And you explain what lean is, right? And that makes total sense to me. In fact, my brother's an architect, and for years he had an office. He was paying like $1,000 for this office that he never used.
Oh my goodness.
And I told him, look, why don't you work out of your own house and you'd have that $1,000, for your family.
That would be lean.
Came around, right? So I leaned him up a little bit. But what's a master black belt Six Sigma? What's the difference between all that?
So lean is identifying the 8 classic wastes. And I'm going to show you a slide on those. And so again, we have to identify waste first in order to eliminate it. So Six Sigma has to do with variation. And so because you have different people, there's one variation. A process itself has variation. That's called common cause variation. And so Six Sigma takes a look at eliminating the variation so that eventually you are at 99.997% accuracy or effectiveness with a process. And so a master black belt means that I've been practicing lean and Six Sigma for many, many years, 25 to be exact. And the way the belts work, they actually work like karate. So if you've never been through lean or Six Sigma training before, you're a white belt, right? You're the proverbial deer in the headlights. What's Muda, right?
Right. Right. So you actually go through belts. That's interesting.
Yes. So now we have initial training, and the initial training, people start memorizing the 8 steps, overproduction, unnecessary processes, transportation, defects, not utilizing talent. So again, all standardized because again, it's not Ruben's way, it's not Carlos's way, it's the standard way. So then that eliminates the angel or the devil effect. You know what I'm talking about? So that So when everybody
should I do this? Should I do that? Right.
No, it's like an idea, because it's team dynamics, and poor team dynamics, by the way, is one of the things that puts the kibosh on growth, because people, aren't gelling together. But the devil and the angel effect in the work environment is that, what? Whose idea is that? It's Carlos's idea. Whose approach is it? It's Carlos's approach. And I don't happen to like Carlos. Oh, can't be good. Nah, so that's that paradigm, right? Wow. That people have about Carlos. But Ruben, on the other hand, I get along with Ruben. He's my bud. Maybe we'll go out drinking together, whatever. Same idea, but now it's like, Ruben's idea. Oh, gotta be a great idea. You see? You see? You can't have that. So again, having a standard process eliminates that and puts everybody on an a level playing field. All right, so then that's the yellow belt. At least starts going through some training. Then an orange belt means that you've participated on a Kaizen event. A Kaizen event is a focused 1 day, 3 day, or 5 day event where we pull the people completely off of their work and we focus them on something in their work to fix. Sales process. The sales process just never worked. We never documented it. We never mapped it. We got too many different ways of calling people. We never scripted it. And so we can't measure it. So we're going to spend one whole day with all the team and we're going to map it. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Oh, wow. I didn't know you did that. Oh, look at that. So now we have some exchange, right? So then we document this. Now we document it. We find out where we have troubles. What are we doing about it? Okay, well, we're collecting data. We're not collecting data. Well, are we collecting any metrics on how many outbound calls it takes for just to get like a callback? How many outbound calls to get an email? How many outbound calls to get an interest? How many outbound calls to get a presentation? How many presentations to a booking? How many bookings to a bigger contract? You see, well, we don't collect that. Well, you see, so a Kaizen event helps us to then put all that in a systematic way so that it can be repeatable. The Six Sigma portion of it makes it so tight that, again, it becomes predictable. All right. So an orange belt is a system. It's a system.
It's getting your systems in place.
Exactly. So an orange belt has participated in a Kaizen event. Then we get to a green belt. A green belt is able to know all these different tools using the DMAIC process, define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, using Pareto, using fishbone analysis, using cause and effect, 5 whys, 50 whys, SIPOC, failure mode and effect analysis. These are all statistical tools that, again, help us to not only identify the variation, but also to help us find the root cause and variation. And a green belt knows how to do that and knows how to use the tools, at least in a manner that they can skate by. Okay? They're not experts on it, but all right, skated by, and they can get the results. So then the black belt is the next level. So at the black belt level, a black belt knows how to use these tools, knows how to teach these tools, can use them backwards and forwards in their sleep. And that is at the first level where now responsibility, financial responsibility comes into play. A black belt, a good black belt, is required to bring in between $3 and $5 million in improvements to an organization. A master black belt then knows a little bit more, knows team dynamics, knows how to coach executives, knows strategic planning and so forth. And also at the master black belt level, I'm required to bring in between $10 and $20 million a year to some of my clients. And so my last client, for a week's Kaizen, 1 week Kaizen, we were able to improve the process so that we brought in $2 million in that department.
Wow.
Okay, this was
powerful.
Right? This was a $260 million a year company. And in 1 week, we brought in $2 million change. So that makes me on pace to bring in a 20 million to this company. You see? That's the value. So anyway, it doesn't cost money to invest. And I was just looking at typical costs like for healthcare to bring in a lean coach. is about $500,000 to $600,000 worth over 2,000 hours. Okay. And, again, you're going to spend that much money on a $150, $160 a year employee anyway, you see? So again, over a 2,000-hour period of time, it doesn't cost, it pays. And you should be getting back, 10, 15 times return on investment. So you have to be patient.
Investment.
Yeah, you can't be frustrated, and you have to, plan on failing. So these are the 5 levels of world-class standard. And so you take a look at a dysfunctional organization that's more economy of scale, long runs, maybe they have rigid factory layout, and all the same kind of machines. Why do you have all the same kind of machines over there? Well, because all those machines do the same thing. Okay. But how about if you just have them, where you need them? And how come that machine isn't there? Well, we don't have plumbing over there. Okay. We don't have electricity over there. Okay. We don't have a drain over there. Okay. But could you bring all that to that if you needed to? Well, yeah, but that costs money. You see, but now your sequence is messed up because you don't have your machines where you need them, versus.
I just read the goal. I reread the goal after about 25 years. And,
that's a classic book.
You're reminding me of that book.
Yep, classic book. Versus a plant layout that's agile, that's clean, where workers are self-inspecting, where they're cleaning the machines, not because we just want it to look pretty, but we clean to inspect. We inspect to detect. We detect to prevent. You see?
Wow.
And so again, that's
awesome.
The power of keeping a machine clean and involving the employees. And that is not a waste of time. Because if
that needs to be taught, because
yes.
I remember when I worked in even at Chick-fil-A, we had the great manager, but maybe he'd never heard of that. Right?
Exactly.
But boy, clean don't lean. Boy, I must have heard that a million times, right?
Right.
And finally,
lean is clean. What would happen at Chick-fil-A if you didn't change the oil regularly in the French fry machine?
No, right.
Right.
And Dave Thomas, Wendy's, right?
Yeah.
In his biography, he talks about how, whenever he goes to a restaurant, he goes to the bathroom, right? The bathroom's not, before he orders, right?
Yes.
If the bathroom's dirty, he's out of there, right?
Yes, exactly.
But our manager taught us to clean, but he never told us, as you're cleaning, inspect, right? I think that's huge, right?
Exactly.
It gives power to clean. Clean is mundane. Clean is boring.
Yeah.
But clean to inspect, that
and
gives it power and it gives it meaning.
And inspect to detect, so that if you can see something that needs fixing, you fix it now. Because if you don't fix it now, you detect to prevent. Because again, if that machine breaks down unexpectedly, you're SOL. By the way, I also do the bathroom test in restaurants, but I also do the bathroom test in companies. All right. When I go to a company for the first time, I go in the men's room, usually because it's a long ride to get there. Right. However, I look at one specific thing in the restroom.
What's that?
I look for the booger factor.
The booger factor. Okay. What is that?
Okay. If there are boogers on the wall by the urinal, that tells me that employees are frustrated. And so they're taking it out on management by putting boogers on the wall.
Wow.
And then someplace passive aggressive because management is not practicing good skills, practicing oppressiveness, harassing employees, not giving them the tools that are needed, frustrating employees. Wow. And in some places, believe it or not, I see even worse vandalism in the stall. I'm not going to be graphic. Think about it. Okay. I'm thinking about, that'll be my next book, The Booger Factor. Yeah.
That's
right.
That definitely gets people wondering, what the heck is this? And they'll pick it up.
Exactly. Right. So, because again, if you look at level 5, at over here on the left, on the second square, we see management by command and control, poor workforce commitment and involvement. It's a family business maybe, or it's run like a mom and pop. That's the mentality. Lots of dysfunctional behaviors, passive aggressiveness, constantly running in the crisis mode. If you look over on the right of the slide over there, employees are highly motivated. They're involved and empowered. You see, that's the two sides, you see? And so again, it's not Carlos's way. This is science. This is the science of Lean and Six Sigma. All right, so let's go on. Lean transformation for the entire company depends on working your plan, planning your work. And part of that is creating what's called the Lean Daily Management. And every day as a leader, you have to manage 4 things, okay? What are those 4 things, Ruben? Number 1, you got to manage yourself. You got to get by that stankin' thinking, right? If you got problems at home, do people care? No. Don't bring it to work. We don't want to hear about it. So first thing, as a leader, you got to manage yourself. Number 2, you got to manage the process, right? You got to get the work done through the different processes. Number 3, who's doing the work? You got teams of people doing the work. That's number 3. Okay. So that's the third thing you got to manage. And number 4, every individual is an individual. So you got to have them feel the love. Every day, people don't care how much you know, but they know how much you care. You see? Right. And how did he make me feel today? Does he know my name? Did he say, hey, Ruben, how's it going? Hey, Ruben, thanks for coming to work today. Hey, but boss, you paid me to come to work. Yeah, but you know what? Without you, we wouldn't be where we're at because, man, you do such a great job. You are the best sales rep. You follow up. You're thorough. You're a people person. You're making us look good, Ruben. I appreciate that. All of a sudden, Ruben's got a little step, a little bounce in the step. And what did it cost? Right? What did it cost? Nothing. People try to spend millions of dollars on employee incentives and profit sharing. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against that. Again, if you can share profit, all the better. However, there are a lot of things that you can do by having a nice work environment, by having a nice lunchroom instead of, do you know, Ruben, that I still go to companies where at lunchtime the employees have to pull out a fold-out table and eat on the floor that's dirty, eat on the floor that's cold or hot? What kind of respect does that tell those employees about how management thinks about them? You see? Right. Basics. All right. So creating a lean environment is making sure that we use Gemba operations. So get the management out on the floor to do employee walkthroughs. In my next book, I'm working on it right now. It's called Gemba Walk, to teach organizations how to conduct a proper management walk in order to fully engage employees. Number 2, on the left there, you got to see that you have to know what the daily key performance indicators are. That's safety. Do we have a safe workplace in the office as well as in production? Do we have a quality output? What does quality mean? We have to then define what quality is according to tolerances. Quality, for sales is that we close 1 in 10. Quality is that we follow up after the first phone call. Quality is that we send thank you notes, handwritten. We don't just send an email saying, thank you for our time. You see? Delivery. Are we delivering what we say we are when we say we are? Inventory. Do we have excess inventory, like having an office that I don't use, right? That would be excess inventory. In the office, it's the in bin. Is it stacked up like this, or is it, we're working on one at a time, and Subway sandwich, and then productivity. If we have 10 projects to do today, if we did 9, we're at 90% productivity. Okay, machine availability. Make sure that the machines, we're talking about cleaning and inspecting to detect, to prevent, are the machines reliable? If they're not reliable, it's going to make our work a whole lot harder. If we can't run at the optimum speed because, again, the materials are hard to work with, or the machine is not conditioned and we're just kind of hoping that it makes it through today, and so we have to run it at 500, RPM instead of 1,000 RPM because it's old, and
right.
that's not good. 5S, 6S
Right.
is workplace organization, a place for everything in its place. Make sure that we clean as we go. Make sure that we have properly identified staging areas. If it's a factory type of environment, putting lines, putting visual controls, putting lights, putting all kinds of symbols so that it, a 5-year-old could go in there and say, okay, I understand how it flows. You see? Okay.
Right.
All
It's
right.
funny that you got me thinking. I mean, my son, we were on the phone last week, and remember I showed you right outside this door, and I can hear a little bit of humming.
Right, the 3D printers.
My 16-year-old son, he has all these 3D printers, right?
Yep.
And he's starting to buy them because he's starting to get a lot of orders, right? And
lo and behold,
he asked me. He went to they're homeschooled. He's homeschooled. Both of them were, but he goes to a homeschool school, right? A couple times a week. All the kids learn together.
Yeah.
And before we left, he said, "Dad, at 1 p.m., take a picture of the 3D printers because I need to see that. I need to see that the progress is, nothing's going wrong. And if it's going, and I'll let you know if something's wrong, you need to turn them off." And he showed me where to turn them off because I didn't know where the off button was, right? So he's thinking about that, right? I'm going to have him read your book.
There you go. So my suggestion, my question might be, what do you think about putting in a video camera that he can access from his phone? You see?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially
now,
if I'm not in town, if I'm at a gig somewhere. That's right.
Exactly.
Good point.
Now, not only is that a valid point, okay, the fact that you said it's good, that gives you value, and there's value-added activity versus non-value added activity on the workplace. Value-added activity is what the customer is willing to pay for and actually helps them improve. Non-value-added activity are things that we do that the customer is not willing to pay us for, that cost us time and money and resources. Like, for example, repairs, right? If your son is having to repair something because the printer's messed up, well, now he's got raw materials, time, you see? If that were a business, raw materials, time, overtime maybe, and now added capacity or lost capacity because I can't put the next job in. And now expedited freight because now I got to send it to you because it's late. And now on top of that, you charge me a penalty on top of that because it's late. Cost. You see? Yeah. So again, these are things that we have to manage. And that's why we're talking about daily management. So the subtle portion of that, again, is how I asked you, what do you think about, you see, versus the typical consultant. Do this. Well, you should do this. You see? And again, as a leader, it's better to ask more rather than tell less. It's better to help people discover, because again, if they discover it, it becomes their idea, right? And now it's more powerful, isn't it? Does that make sense?
You don't have to sell them on it.
Right? You got full commitment. So the daily 4 pillars are, again, managing the KPIs. Make sure that manage the Gemba visual management. Again, you should be able to go in there and know where everything's at. Daily, hourly tracking. The other day, I was at another one of my clients, a global, okay? It is a global mattress company. And at the beginning of the line, these guys start and they feed these guys, and then the mattresses get assembled, and then they feed the guys that sew the mattresses. The mattresses get put on the line, and they go down to these presses where they put needles through the mattress to make the buttons on, for the toughening on the mattress. And then from there it goes to the packaging machine, and then they come out the back end, fully packaged, ready to go into the truck, right? So they're having to do, let's say 1 mattress every 3 minutes, right? And so they're right on pace for that. And I'm looking and I said, well, you guys should have the first mattress, within 20 minutes. And they're like, how do you know that? I said, well, I figured it out. Okay. And so I showed them how to figure that out. So at 18 minutes, the first mattress hits the line. And I said, holy cow, they're ahead of schedule. Way to go, guys, right? Next mattress hits at 19 minutes. Next one hits at 20 minutes. And what do you think's happening? Nothing. They're just sitting there. And I'm going, okay, you're on pace there. But who's moving them now? Oh, we got to wait for, Lorena. She's the QC manager. Well, where is she? Well, she doesn't come in till 9 o'clock. I said, it's 7 o'clock now, right? It's 7 o'clock. You guys kidding me? Go get Lorena. So she comes out. What's going on? What's going on? I said, you need to move these mattresses. You see? So again, that's that visual management. The mattresses were the visual that says, bring QC. So that why? So that we can move. So we can get flow. You see? And so we're shooting ourselves in the foot by practicing these ways of manufacturing that really aren't making sense, but that's a batch mentality. Well, she'll just batch check them at 9 o'clock. No,
right?
Because all of a sudden now you open the water hose to the packing line, and they're like Lucy in the chocolate factory, the rest of the day.
Right.
So we want one piece flow, right? We want that pace. That
seems so simple, but it's so complex. I mean,
it is.
So many things can go wrong if you don't have the right person helping
absolutely
you see these little things.
And that's the value.
It's like the coach.
It's the value of the coach.
I don't do anything. And I mean, have you ever heard of an Olympic athlete or a pro athlete that doesn't have a coach? I mean, I don't do anything without a coach.
Right.
When I wanted to run with the Bulls in Pamplona, I read 3 books about Pamplona. I called one of the authors, and I asked him, "Hey, I want some tips. I don't want extra holes in my body." And he told me, he gave me 5 or 6 little tips that I never would have thought of. I mean, little insignificant things that could have saved my life, right?
Yeah.
And I ran with the Bulls twice, and fine, I lived to tell about it. Climb Kilimanjaro. Well, we hired a coach that had climbed it 100 times, right? And he just, so it takes the risk, it reduces the risk, and improves it gives you, allows you to reach a goal faster. And,
it does,
and it improves it's a great investment.
So my title officially is sensei. That's the Japanese word for teacher or instructor. Okay, the literal translation, Ruben, is guide.
Really? Like
someone who has been through this process before. And guess what? I have been through this process thousands of times in 25 years, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that I don't know what I'm doing? You see? Do you think that I can show you? Do you think that I can get you there faster? Yes. But again, if you're trying to drive that Ferrari, by having a cow pull it, and now you start telling the sensei, do this, and I want you to do this, and do it this way. And then it's like, do you tell your doctor how to do the job?
No.
You see, right?
No, when I went, first time I went to Lake Placid, this was back in 1984. Before I went, I guess I made a promise to myself that when I got there, I would humble myself to the leadership of the coaches, because who was I to say, this is how you drive a sled? I didn't even know what a sled looked like back then.
Right.
And so you have to do that, right? The smart person finds somebody that's already, my dad used to say, if you need to cross a minefield, it's a good idea to find somebody who's already crossed it, preferably somebody still walking, right? He always taught me, find the coach, find the guide.
Yes.
Find the sensei.
Well, but being humble, is very important. You got to take the ego out of it, because again, Ruben, we take the E out of ego. What do we get?
Go.
Go. You see, we take the E. We take the E out of emotion. Right. We get motion, forward motion. You see, move it forward. And you know what? Part of that is the way we treat employees too. We were talking about earlier before. And so what I've done is I've divided them up into 4 particular ways. So it's not just for the production. You see, if you are an R&D organization, if you are an engineering, if you are a food restaurant, like you say, Chick-fil-A, Subway Sandwich, Jollibee Foods, Carl's Jr., whatever it is, you're going to have not only process waste, there are defects, scrap, workarounds, spelling there, but you're also going to have information waste. And so you're looking at redundancy. You're looking at people using Excel and, inputting stuff in, but also using the ERP, and the two don't talk to each other, or using an ERP system and a logistics system, but they don't talk to each other, right? So you have to convert the formats. or collecting data. Well, why are you collecting data? We don't know. Well, what do you mean? Well, we just report it to management and, they do something with it. Well, are you doing any root cause analysis with it? What's that? So, these are answers that I've gotten back from people that are entering data. So a couple of years ago, I got hired by Southern California Edison to teach their business analysts, financial business analysts, who were running circles around me with these gorgeous Excel spreadsheets, right? But they did not know how to read them. They didn't know about data points. They didn't know about control charts. They didn't know about, so what is this chart showing? Well, I don't know. I just show the executive and they're paid to do that. So you don't make any recommendations? No, that's not my job. By the end, right? By the end of the 6-week session, they knew that they could tell the executive, I'm seeing that there is a shift here. And my recommendations with a shift is that we act now in order to prevent a trend, a negative trend. You see?
Right.
Right? So we found out, also we used data to also reduce the number of injuries with employees by coming out with one of these stick figures, you got the hands and so forth. And we found out that there were a lot of sprained ankles, and so before they were just reporting sprained ankles. Yeah, well, so what? All right, so now we got proof that we have a lot of sprained ankles. So let's find the root cause. So we went and we studied what the root cause. You know what the root cause was? We bought new trucks and they were too high. So when people were stepping off of the truck, they did not have a step, and so people were spraining their ankles. So how about if we put steps on all those trucks? Boom. Sprained ankles reduced by 90%. Crazy, you see? So that's the science of Lean and Six Sigma together. We identified the issue, and we then put the science behind it. All right.
I'm so glad you said that. You got my head spinning.
Well, good.
A few years ago, I got to go to Atlanta to meet Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A. And I got to spend about 4 hours with him. He was in his 80s, and he still went to work every day, right? Suit and tie.
Holy cow.
He spent an hour, and he showed us around. He told us stories. It was amazing. Then he took us down to the bottom, and this is a huge building, right? This is, if you want to be a Chick-fil-A operator, that's where you go to learn and train. And there's about 500 people that work here. And we go to the bottom. When we get to the atrium of the building, on the way to the Chick-fil-A museum, some new operators, it's like the Pope had shown up. I mean, they walked up to us, oh my, Mr. Cathy, oh my, there was this reverence, right? It was incredible.
Absolutely.
Finally, we get through those guys and we get down to the Chick-fil-A museum, and he's telling us all these stories. And then we go to the cafeteria. And the cafeteria is kind of like a food court in a mall where it's got Chinese food and it's got, barbecue and it's got Italian. I mean, and it's got Chick-fil-A, of course. And so he said, you see anything? I was there with a friend of mine. Do you guys see anything, missing here? And we said, no, you got everything. This is awesome. He goes, no, look a little bit more. You see anything missing? He goes, no cash register. I feed everybody every day. Okay.
Wow.
It costs me $5, but the goodwill is worth a million times that. Right.
Absolutely.
So he knows how to treat people, and that comes from the top, and it trickles down, right?
Yeah.
So little things, make a huge difference.
It makes a huge difference because employees actually feel, the love, and again that Gallup Harvard study, like I said, changed in 2013 because now employees are not looking just at being paid; they're looking at the whole work experience. Do I have a Zen rooms where if I need to go in and, develop some ideas, I can go in by myself, or, hey, we can use it as a meeting room, but it just has some nice vibes. It's got some beanbag chairs, a nutrition program. We have snacks, at the coffee locations, power bars, fresh fruit, vegetables. Some places you can bring your pet to work. They have a roving massage therapist. Google and some of these other places, they serve beer or, alcohol throughout the
You
day.
serious?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And again,
Wow.
that's a far end, but again, that enhances the employee experience and the commitment that the employees have towards that company, and it eliminates that booger factor.
Oh, and then the turnover, and you got to train somebody else, and
Absolutely.
and that person's going to leave too. You mentioned the broken bones. I mean, my son, both my kids did judo for 7 years at the Olympic training center. Actually, you actually.
Yes, I went with you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. And so
I remember the Sugar Ray Leonard ring. That was cool to see.
Isn't that amazing? Oh, I love that place. I miss it so much. The first thing they teach kids in judo is how to fall. Right? And they tell them your body is like the trunk of a tree. It's thick and big and strong. Your arms are like little twigs. Little twigs, they break easy. So you don't put your hand down to fall, right? And because you'll break a wrist. And he said, when you fall, you punch the ground like this, boom, right? And that breaks the fall, or better yet, just fall on your body. And you never see any broken arms and broken limbs in hardly ever in judo. Now they're doing wrestling. Grayson's doing wrestling for his high school, and we were at a championship event a couple of weeks ago. It was the state regionals, and this kid from another school, he got thrown and he put his arm out and broke his wrist.
Yep.
Right.
Oh man.
And so you reminded me of that. So now I'm going to tell Grayson next judo practice, he needs to do a how to fall and how to not fall lesson to the wrestlers, because they don't get this information.
Yeah.
So little things, right? Little things make a big difference. It could ruin your. I mean, thank God it was at the end of the season the kid broke his arm. It could have been the first tournament. It ruins the whole year for him.
It makes a big difference. And by the way to transfer that knowledge, there's actually a standard way to do that. Okay.
No kidding.
Yep. It's called the Ex Dem Pro Feed Mon Teach system. Okay. And I know that seems like a lot, but again, it's formal. One of my Fortune 500 companies, this is the way that they transfer knowledge, and it's owned by a very well-known person that shall remain nameless, but I can just say Fortune 500 company. And so explain the who, what, where, when, why, and how. That's the X. Okay. Pro, have the people practice. Fall. Boom, fall, boom, good, doing a good job.
Don't just tell them,
right? Don't just tell them.
They know it here, but they don't know it in their body.
Exactly.
Right.
So again, you have to go through that neuro-linguistic,
right?
Of the feeling portion of it.
You need muscle.
The kinesthetic.
You develop muscle memory.
Exactly, kinesthetic. All right. So the Ex-Dem Pro. So you explain, you demonstrate, you have them practice, Feedback, get feedback. Hey, Ruben, how did that feel? I just felt strange. Okay, how about you make this adjustment? Oh, that feels better. Okay, good. What do you think? Right? So X, explain. Dem, demonstrate. Pro, have them practice. Feed, get feedback. Mon, monitor. Okay, practice. So now they're practicing. Practice. And you're monitoring them. You're making corrections, right? Or you monitor through visual controls. What's your production? What's your outbound calls? What's your average time on hold? What's your abandoned calls? You see? How many patients are you seeing today? How many rejects do you have? How many reworks? How many spoiled pies? How many underweight pies, right? So any field, it doesn't matter. Ex-Dem Pro Feed Mon, okay? And then after we go through all that, teach back. So now, Ruben, I've just introduced the Ex-Dem Pro Feed Mon Teach system to you. Give it back to me.
Now you teach me.
You teach me.
Because that's how you really learn, when you teach somebody.
The student becomes awesome. Right.
Is that in your book? Huh?
Yeah, it is in my book. All right,
guys. I tell you, I'm not just saying this because Carlos and I are good friends. Okay, if this was a lousy book, I'm not going to mess up my reputation by giving it a thumbs up. Okay, but this thing is it's a resource. All right. I mean, it really is. So I love it. Keep going.
Thank you.
Teach me more, Carlos.
All right. Good. Sensei. All right. Good. So I think that we got about 10, 15 more minutes. Let's talk about long-term goals and objectives. So immediately, as we're looking at improving our organizations, you want to take a look at where there's low fruit. And so we identify that low fruit, and we want to make some quick changes there and get some small successes so that people, it builds up their confidence. And if we can get what's called head turners, like, wow, what'd you guys do over there? You see, then that gets people to buy in even faster. One of the easiest ones, of course, is 5S and 6S, workplace organization. If your place looks like a pigsty, just the fact that you can clean it up and people go, wow, it looks so much cleaner in here. Wow, you got so much space. Wow, you got flow. You see, so there. Long term, more difficult, is quality improvement, creating flow on a regular basis, sustaining a culture of continuous improvement. And that takes years. I've been at places over 20 years now, and we're still working on getting the culture right. Yeah. They again,
wow.
I was thinking of a client this morning. We have had 5 leadership classes with the same people over the last 25 years. Why? It's a refresher, and for the new leadership, it's new. But now what they're saying is, this is the way we practice leadership here. These are the skills. And I always hear, even from the old timers, I had forgotten about that. I'm glad you reminded me. Or you know what? I've been working on that more, and I really became an expert at that. Thank you. You see? So consensus is mutual agreement, even to the point of what's called operational definition. And conflict is good. Sometimes, no, it's this way. No, it's that way. No, it's this way. Okay, that doesn't mean that that's bad. But again, if we can come together and say, oh, I get it, then that's a big aha moment where it's neither your idea nor my idea, it's our idea, or when it comes to understanding, right. That's that synergy. And that's also what's called the operational definition. And then what makes it important, we have to document that as a standard. And everybody gets trained as the standard, and everybody does it as the standard. Employee involvement and engagement, of course, is very important. So following the right process, and again, this is not a process for people that want immediate results, all right? Slow and steady, right? And it's not going to look great at first. And so what we say is crude and fast is better than slow and elegant. And so plan, do, check, act. Plan, do, check, act. You see, that's the process that we follow. And we can't do it without people, and we can't do it without partners. So we have to allow our employees to ask questions. Ruben, you know that in the US, employees only ask their employers an average of about half a question per year.
Oh my gosh.
As compared to Japan, right, where they have a more collaborative, open management structure, where employees ask over 65 questions a year.
Really? So does that come from Deming?
It comes from Deming. Absolutely. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
And why? Because in the 21st century, we have American managers, supervisors, directors, VPs, and executives practicing 1920s management style. Wow. Guys, that is 100-year-old management style. And if we want to be competitive in the 21st century, we have to practice 21st century management, collaborative styles, not authoritative styles.
That's amazing. That's amazing. One thing that I tell my people that I'm training, people that are going to be marketing me, right, to speak for organizations, I tell them, look, I don't want closers, okay? Nobody wants to be closed. What you want to do is you want to build a relationship with this person, create trust. And then when the timing's right, if I'm a good fit, they'll book me, okay? If you just work the process, it'll work. But if you try to push them, they'll put their guard up. See, when you said 1920s, well, in 1920s, 1950s, selling was all about manipulation and closing, right? And fooling people. And then you had all these returns because people realized, I don't really want to buy this, right?
Yeah. I got sold.
Episode, right? Where she buys this vacuum cleaner from a shyster, right? And so when you said that management today is using 1920s methods, it's the same like using 1920s sales techniques, and that doesn't work anymore. People know when they're getting,
and you know what?
taken advantage of.
And you know we have now that
It's
we did.
all about the relationship.
Yeah.
You got to think, as an Olympic athlete, I'm a long-term thinker, right?
Yeah.
If your goals are out 4 years out, that makes decision making today a lot easier, right? When I was going for an Olympics, if somebody offered me a piece of cake, I would think, chocolate cake, Olympics. I think I'll take the Olympics. It was easy to say no to that cake.
Yeah.
But in between, when during the years when I wasn't going for the Olympics, somebody offered me a chocolate cake. I'm goal oriented. I'll eat the whole cake.
Hey, you never do anything. You never do anything half baked. Hey, by the way, Ruben, what is something that we have nowadays that we didn't have in the 1920s that really employers need to be more cognizant of, especially the way that they treat their employees? What do we have now that we didn't have in the 1920s?
Well, probably unions and labor and people getting sued and
yeah,
that, right?
Well, getting sued, that's the number one way that people hit the lottery. But more importantly, we have the internet. So again, if you are not a good employer, guess what? Glassdoor tells everybody on your social media they're a lousy employer. I had this one gig one time up in Sacramento, and there was a big chain store warehouse that opened up across the way, and they started poaching our employees for $1 more an hour. Okay, and we started losing them because again, people got to pay bills. But 2 weeks later, they started coming back, and everybody was saying the same thing. Their management is hard. They don't respect employees. They sexually harass the women.
Are you serious?
Yes. So again, now with social media, and if you're harassing employees, we just had a landmark decision back a few years ago. A hospital chain was sued for harassing this nurse by the doctors and the staff. She reported it to Human Resources. They came back, they retaliated against her. She proved this in a court of law, and it was pervasive. This had been the culture of this hospital chain for years and years. They got punitive damages of $165 million. And on top of that, since California is a state where you can sue your coworker, she got about $250K from each of her coworkers. So she's sitting pretty on about $200 million. So again, you want to keep practicing that 1920s management style? It's going to cost you. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. All right.
It goes back to the relationship. You got to. It comes down to the relationship. I mean, I want to be doing this. It's funny. Years ago, I was sitting on the back row. I was going to be speaking with, it was going to be Zig Ziglar and Charlie Tremendous Jones, a couple of, real old timers, but great, incredible speakers. And I was going to go on later, right? So I'm sitting in the back row because I don't want to be disturbing people. I'm sitting next to another of the speakers. And these guys are in their 80s and they're just going 90 miles an hour. And I thought, man. And she said, can you believe they're still doing that? And I said, look, 40 years from now, that's going to be me and you. And there's going to be a couple of newbie speakers in the back row saying, can you believe they're starting? And she just started crying.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Hey, the only way you get to do that is by not burning bridges, by creating strong relationships everywhere you go.
It's the only reason you and I are here is because we built that relationship over the last 10 years.
That's it. Amen.
Yep. Hey, I did the To the Top for Zig in Spanish for a couple of years, right?
Did you really?
Yes, I did. Yeah, he hired me to go out and do the presentation in Spanish.
Oh, that's cool. So
Hasta encima. Yeah. I got this. Hey, with him and Red. That's what he calls his wife, Red.
Yeah.
Right?
She's a decided redhead.
Yeah, exactly.
One day she decided she wanted to be a redhead, just like Lucy. Yep, exactly. Hey, by the way, I also attended Prestonwood Baptist Church with him, okay, where they have 8,000 people in the congregation. The choir was 250 people. There was a Starbucks at either end of the church. That's how big this place was. Right north of Dallas, Texas. So that was really, and he taught a Bible study
afterwards.
For 40 years.
And 1,000 people showed up to his Bible study.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was fun. All right, so let's wrap it up here. So the last thing we want to provide the folks is problem solving. And so again, all these problem solving skills and tools we need to teach, but not only teach, but have them practice. And right now I have a client that, again, has at least the foresight to say, hey, I want to get to the point where we don't need you anymore. You know, that my people can do this without you. And to that I say, exactly. You know, and by the way, you know, again, I tell that to my clients all the time, and they keep inviting me back all the time. So principles, you know, of TPS, Toyota Production System, is standardization. We want to make sure that, you know, again, we do it. We want to make sure that we have that visual management. This is the Toyota triangle, and that we also manage the same. So again, with this book that teaches your organization how everybody can manage using the same techniques. Okay, we want to go from a system that is broken, that's not defined, that's not visible, that we're not able to adhere to it, to a system where the standard is visible and we're able to adhere to it because we have standard operating procedures. We're able to see visually an abnormality. We report it. People feel comfortable about that. We drive towards root cause and we fix that. I got some accent there. We fix that abnormality. And again, identify the 8 classic wastes. You can't see them. You can't fix them. We cannot do it without a team. So we want to make sure that we do it with a team. Metrics, we want to make sure that we post metrics. This is a communications board that lists, you know, production, lists cleanliness, and well, we have it on the computer. Doesn't matter. You want to have it out so that we can then have a morning market meeting every morning and say, hey guys, this is what we had yesterday. You know, the top didn't close on this pen. Why do you guys think that's happening? Oh, because the machine. Oh, because they were paying attention. Oh, yeah. Well, can we make sure that we make sure and put the tops on today? All right, yeah. You see? And then we put this on an altar. All day long, it's there to say this to the employees. Right? You see, I don't have to do it, but again, that's the some places we have what's called Muda marketplaces. So that's waste. So we have waste bins by the department with people's names on it. It's Ruben's, it's Carlos. Okay, so we take a look at, you know, Ruben's is empty, Carlos says is medium, you know, Sally's is medium, but over here, Jose's, it's really full. Jose, why are you making so much scrap? You know, so again, it's visual. He can't hide anything.
Yeah.
Right?
That's great.
So again, these are, right? So we want to make sure that, again, Kaizen is not just about focused 1 day, 3 day, or 5 day events. You know, we want to experience Kaizen events every day, because every day we have little incremental growth that we can do. You know, think about this, Ruben. If your company has 100 employees and you tell people just improve your process by one thing a week, that's 100 new improvements you have every week. That's 400 a month, you see?
No, and the luge, you know, the luge is the only sport, the only Olympic sport, winter or summer, that's timed to the 1/1000th of a second. So everything counts.
Holy cow.
Okay? I mean, even your breathing counts. I mean, your breathing counts a lot.
Wow.
You hold your breath the whole way down. So 1 minute long run. Well, so it's easier to hold your breath if you're scared half to death. Well, guess what? You're half a second slower because you're tighter. Okay.
Wow.
And so that's 500 1,000ths of a second. That's a lot, right? And so we train and we, you know, finish our run, talking the walkie-talkie to coach. He gives us, he tells us what we did wrong. And then we walk up to the coach and now we see a couple of the Italians or the Germans, and he sees, see, that's how it needs to be done. This is where you were. Now I got a visual. Now in the evening, we're watching videos of me, and that's the worst part of the day. You're seeing how terrible you really are. Yeah. You do that constant improvement. And if we improve 1/10 of a second in a year, that was a great improvement, right? Because that could be the difference between making the Olympics or not. And so those little bitty steps that you're showing in that slide, it's what we live by.
I had a talk with my folks on this one plastic bag line yesterday. I said, okay, with all the stuff that we've been doing, and you guys have been practicing, and you're doing a great job. I said, so now, I said, this is where, you know, that the tread meets the surface. Do you guys think Or let me ask you this, how can we get one more job per shift? Do you guys think that you guys can do that? And they're going like, well, that's it? I said, well, really think about it. We have 2 shifts. That's 2 more jobs per day. Times 5 days, that's 10 more jobs per week. That's 40 more jobs per month. How many shifts would that be if we do 40 more jobs? And they said, that'd be like 3 whole new shifts.
Right.
I said, can you do 1 more job per shift?
Right.
And they're like,
right.
yeah, we could do that. You see?
Yeah.
So again, baby steps. That's a 1/100th of
add up.
Yep.
Yeah.
They add up.
When you came over, I live in Colorado Springs, and so when you came over, you got to come to the Olympic Training Center. I don't remember if we saw this, but where the gymnasts train, I don't know if I pointed it out to you, but they have all the apparatus, right? And that's where they train. And there's cameras from 2 angles. So let's say you do the high bar, right? And you do a routine, and then you land. And then as soon as you land, you walk up to the coach and you look over here, and you see yourself from that angle, right? And you're getting coaching right away. It's not later in the day like us, so it's more powerful. Yeah. And then you move over there, and now it's a different angle. Now you're seeing yourself from a different angle. Now he's pointing out different things, getting immediate feedback, and then next time that's how you improve. Correct. So in my book, I talk about the like best next time technique. So with your outbound calls, if you can record them, and then you can call Ruben in to, hey, Ruben, let's do an assessment of your last 2 or 3 calls. Okay, so we play the calls, and then we say, Ruben, what did you like best about that call? Well, I did this, I greeted them, I got them engaged, I established rapport, I got them to trust me, etc. Great. In addition to that, you did this, and you did this, and you did really well. And when you asked that question, boy, that was a great question. Oh, wow. I wasn't sure about that, but I thought I'd try it anyway. So you really think I should keep doing that? That's a great question. Oh, all right, great. Okay, so what might you do differently next time? Okay, so, well, I might say this, I might do this, I might do whatever. The hardest employee is the employee that when you ask that question, they go, right? So then you got to draw them out, right? Fix the mindset, right? Right? So again, it's a coaching opportunity, whether it's or, well, I think, or I wasn't sure, you see? And so again, that's the liked best next time technique. And again, that's in my book. Awesome.
I have a lot of stuff like you say, they say, you say, they say. And I have also what's called, the playbook hint. And the playbook hint also says, here's what you should do in that situation. Finally, I have a personal action plan. At the end of every chapter, what are some things that I learned from this chapter that I need to work on? Yep. 1, 2, and 3. And off of 1, what are 3 things that I'm going to do to improve number 1? On number 2, what are 3 things that I'm going to do? You see, so again, it's almost like a journal. It's very interactive so that then you can improve. And so leading in the lean environment, as we close today's session, is more than just the science, is more than just the people. It's more than just the systems. It's a way of life. Yeah. And again, if you're expecting immediate results, go for another method, because again, this method takes time. And at first it's going to seem like disjointed and topsy-turvy, but after a while, you start getting into the routine, you start getting into an unpredictable, unstable system to a more predictable, more stable system. And then as we get more predictable and more stable, then we start getting bigger and better outcomes.
Yep. Yeah, success takes time. It does. I mean, it really does. Hey, let me ask you before we finish up, when COVID hit, I had to make some quick changes, right? I had to pivot right away from live events to doing virtual, right? I had to figure that out.
Yep. And, all of us.
And I love it, right? I love virtual, and virtual will still have a place after COVID. But wow, all this stuff we talked about, remote work and COVID, has it changed and reinforced all these principles that you're talking about, or do they still apply?
They still apply. And so, in the beginning of COVID, I lost a lot of my business. But within a month or two, after people started figuring out that, business couldn't stop and they had to survive, and they started finding different ways of conducting business, and they started realizing that if I don't bring in a coach, to help me see me through this, I'm really going to be out of business. So then all of a sudden my phones just started ringing off the hook, and, this guy said, hey, I got this guy for you. This guy got, gal, I got this gal for you, and it makes transferring the knowledge a whole lot more difficult because I'm doing more Zoom meetings, but it also offers different platforms so that I can be on site. So, I'm taking the chance now and going on site with my mask. I had to show up at 5 o'clock in the morning the other day. I was sneaking in the side door and HR was there. Johnny on the spot. She says, oh, no, you don't. Got to come over. You got to take your temperature, and she took my temperature, right?
5 a.m.
At 5 a.m.
Wow.
And again, I got my sticker that said screened, right? That I got to wear all day long. And then during the break, they have a service that comes in and they spray disinfectant in the different areas, and they're constantly cleaning. And, you just got to do. So it's one of the things that they say now to me is, it really brought to mind the importance of cleanliness, of housekeeping. And so that's one good thing that, COVID has brought out.
Interesting. One of my clients is a big hospital system in Fort Wayne, and they've brought me in several times over the years.
Fort Wayne,
every
Indiana.
3 months, Indiana. And so they always have every 3 months they bring out of 5,000 employees, they're 800 leaders for a 1-day leadership retreat. Right?
Awesome.
And they have speakers.
Yeah.
And you would not believe how much that hospital system has just grown through the roof because they're constantly doing this Kaizen, right? They're polishing, they're sharpening the saw, not once a year, but every 3 months.
Yeah.
And typically a big corporation will do a sales kickoff once a year. They'll bring everybody to Las Vegas or Orlando or somewhere like that. And it's very expensive. And I think that what's going to happen in the future, and I'm going to suggest it to them, I says, look, you got to do the live one. That's important. Okay. But how about a vitamin B12 shot every 3 months, virtual, where they're still there, but you bring me in to, and bring somebody else next month and so on.
Yeah. Or you have multiple speakers. Bring Carlos and Ruben and Sally and so again, they each get maybe 20 minutes, half hour to talk about a certain thing. And then we go to a breakout room and we talk about it. And we come back and all of a sudden now it's Carlos's turn. And he talks about it, breakout room, come back, Yeah,
and you do it and nobody misses work because it's just a couple, maybe it's a half-day thing.
Yep.
And you don't have to fly anybody. It's 100% investment.
Yep.
So that's why I'm excited about this.
Yep.
I mean,
so last week I taught a class at the local Channel Islands University. I had over 20 students. I could see all their little faces, right? And so I taught them an operations class.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's cool. And what age was it?
It's college. They were juniors and seniors.
Okay. Yeah.
At Cal State Channel Islands. Yep.
Terrific. I love it.
Yep.
All right, man. This has been, I've taken a bunch of notes. I mean, now I'm going to dive into your book. Now I've got all these places I want to go check out.
Okay. That's your homework.
It's been great.
Good.
Yep.
Good. So let's do it again. And thank you all for joining us. And we'll see you next time.
Make it Olympic Day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay.
Awesome, man. That was cool.
Awesome. Good synergy, a lot of high energy. And I think good pacing. There are a few things that I saw that I got to pull out. But I think that's the value of, being able to go in and do a, what's the word I want?
It's almost like a seminar.
Yeah. Pre-recording it like this rather than just live.
I see. Cool, man.
Hey.
Well, I got to run. I got a zillion things to do.
Thanks a lot.
I enjoyed it.
Same here.
Man.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.